Nora, I need you to promise me something, Eli whispered, his grip weak but insistent. I leaned closer, my heart racing. The hospital room's sterile smell faded as I focused on my husband's pale face. Anything, my love. What is it? Take care of the boys and don't let them lose themselves. His words hit me like a punch to the gut. I squeezed his hand, forcing a smile. Of course I will. But you'll be there too, Eli. We'll do it together. He shook his head, a sad smile playing on his lips. We both know that's not true, Nora. Promise me. I promise, I choked out, tears blurring my vision. Eli's eyes closed, his breathing shallow. The monitor's steady beep became a haunting rhythm, marking the precious seconds we had left. My name is Nora, and this was the moment my world shattered. I stood there, numb, as doctors rushed in. Their voices faded to a dull roar as I watched them work on Eli. It had all happened so fast. The diagnosis, the rapid decline, and now, this. Time of death, 3:47 p.m., a voice announced. I felt a hand on my shoulder and turned to CDR. Patel, her eyes filled with sympathy. I'm so sorry, Nora. We did everything we could. I nodded mechanically, unable to form words. My mind raced, thinking of our sons, Jasper and Caleb. How would I tell them? How could I possibly keep my promise to Eli when I felt so lost myself? As if summoned by my thoughts, the door burst open. Jasper strode in, his face a mask of anger and grief.
Mom.
What happened? Why didn't you call me sooner? I reached for him, but he brushed past me to Eli's bedside. Dad? Dad, come on, wake up. Jasper, I said softly, touching his arm. He's gone, sweetheart. I'm so sorry. He whirled on me, eyes blazing. This is your fault. You should have made him go to the doctor sooner. You should have. That's enough, a quiet voice interrupted. Caleb stood in the doorway, his artist's hands clenched at his sides. This is a mom's fault, Jasper. You know that. Jasper's shoulders slumped, the fight draining out of him. He collapsed into a chair, head in his hands. I can't believe he's gone. I moved to comfort him, but Caleb beat me to it. He knelt beside his brother, one hand on Jasper's back. I know, Jas. I can't either. Watching them, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe I could keep my promise to Eli after all. Maybe we could get through this together. But then Jasper looked up, his eyes hard. What happens now? With the house, the money, everything. And just like that, the moment shattered. I stared at my eldest son, shocked by his questions so soon after his father's death. Jasper, that's not important right now. We need to. Not important, he scoffed. Dad worked his whole life for us. We deserve to know what he left behind. Caleb stood up, disgust evident on his face. Are you serious right now? Dad just died, and you're worried about money? Jasper rose to face his brother. Someone has to think practically. We can't all be starving artists like you, Caleb. Stop it, both of you, I said firmly, stepping between them. This isn't the time or place. We need to support each other, not fight. But as I looked at their faces, Jasper's calculating, Caleb's hurt, I realized this was just the beginning. Eli's last words echoed in my mind. Don't let them lose themselves. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. We'll discuss everything later. For now, let's focus on saying goodbye to your father. As we gathered around Eli's bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that our family was balanced on a knife's edge. One wrong move, and everything could fall apart. I placed my hand on Eli's still chest, my wedding ring glinting under the harsh hospital lights. I'll keep my promise, I whispered, no matter what it takes. Little did I know just how much that promise would cost me in the days to come. As we left the hospital, the weight of responsibility settled on my shoulders. I was a widow, a mother, and now the keeper of secrets that could tear our family apart. But I was also a fighter, and I would do whatever it took to honor Eli's last wish and keep our family together, even if it meant facing the darkness that lurked beneath the surface of our seemingly perfect life. The tension in the room was palpable as I unfolded the crisp legal document. Jasper's eyes bored into me, his jaw clenched. Caleb sat quietly, his gaze darting between his brother and me. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. "I'll read the key points of your father's will," I began, my voice steadier than I felt. "The family home and the majority of our savings are left to me, to manage as I see fit." Jasper's fist clenched on the armrest. I continued before he could interrupt. "For you boys, there's a modest trust fund. It's designed to help with education or starting a business, but it's not substantial. That's it." Jasper exploded, leaping to his feet. "After everything Dad built, that's all we get?" I met his gaze, unflinching. "Your father worked hard to provide for us, Jasper. He wanted to ensure we'd be taken care of, but also that you'd make your own way in the world." Caleb spoke up, his voice soft. "It makes sense, Jazz. Mom needs security and we're young. We can build our own lives." Jasper rounded on his brother. "Of course you'd say that. You don't care about money, mister. Starving artist. Some of us have ambition." "Ambition?" Caleb's eyes flashed. "Is that what you call wanting a handout?" "Enough," I interjected, stepping between them. "This is exactly what your father wanted to avoid. He believed in both of you, in your abilities to succeed on your own merits." Jasper scoffed.
Right.
"So he leaves everything to you, and we get scraps. How is that fair?" I felt my patience wearing thin. "Life isn't always fair, Jasper. Your father trusted me to make the right decisions for this family. If you need help, I'm here. But I won't simply hand over a fortune you haven't earned." "You're unbelievable," Jasper spat. "Dad's barely cold, and you're already playing the stern matriarch. I bet you influenced him to write the will this way." The accusation stung, but I held my ground. "That's enough. Your father made his own decisions. I'm honoring his wishes, whether you like it or not." Caleb stood, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Mom's right, Jazz. This isn't helping anyone. We should be grateful for what we have, not fighting over money." Jasper's laugh was bitter. "Oh, spare me the saintly act, Caleb. You're just happy because you know Mom will keep funding your little art projects. Some of us have real goals." I watched the hurt flash across Caleb's face and felt my anger rising. "That's unfair, Jasper. Your brother's work is valuable, even if it's not measured in dollars. Your father was proud of both of you for different reasons." "Well, he had a funny way of showing it," Jasper muttered. He paced the room, running a hand through his hair. "What am I supposed to tell Savannah? We had plans, big plans." I sighed, remembering Eli's warnings about Jasper's girlfriend. "Your relationship isn't dependent on your inheritance, Jasper. If Savannah truly loves you—" "Don't," he cut me off. "Don't you dare lecture me about love. You have no idea what Savannah and I have." The room fell silent, the weight of unspoken words hanging heavy between us. I looked at my sons, Jasper, seething with resentment, and Caleb, a mix of sadness and resignation on his face. How had we come to this? "Listen," I said softly, "I know this is hard. We're all grieving, and emotions are running high. But we need to stick together. Your father wanted us to support each other, not tear ourselves apart over money." Jasper's shoulders slumped, some of the fight leaving him. I had plans, Mom. I thought I'd be able to start my own business, make Dad proud." I moved to him, placing a hand on his arm. "You still can, sweetheart. The trust fund is there to help you get started. And I'm here to support you, always. But it has to be earned, not handed to you." He shrugged off my touch. "Whatever. I need some air." Without another word, he stormed out of the room. Caleb and I stood in silence for a moment. "He'll come around, Mom," Caleb said finally. "He's just hurting." I nodded, hoping he was right. "I know. I wish your father was here. He'd know what to say." Caleb hugged me, and I felt tears prick my eyes. "You're doing great, Mom. Dad would be proud of how you're handling this." As we broke apart, I caught sight of Eli's photo on the mantel. His kind eyes seemed to bore into me, reminding me of his last words. "Don't let them lose themselves." I hope you're right, Caleb, I whispered, because I have a feeling this is just the beginning of our troubles. As if on cue, my phone buzzed. A text from Jasper. This isn't over. Savannah and I won't stand for this. I showed it to Caleb, who shook his head. What are we going to do? I squared my shoulders, a plan already forming. Whatever it takes to keep this family together. Your father trusted me with that task, and I won't let him down. As Caleb left to start dinner, I sat heavily in Eli's old armchair. The weight of responsibility settled on me like a cloak. I had no idea what challenges lay ahead, but I knew one thing for certain. I would fight with everything I had to honor Eli's last wish and protect our family, even if it meant going to war with my own son. The doorbell chimed, its cheerful tone at odds with the tension that had settled over our home since the reading of Eli's will. I smoothed my shirt and took a deep breath before opening the door. Mom, I want you to meet Savannah, Jasper said, his arm around a stunning blonde woman. Savannah's smile was dazzling, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Mrs. Thompson, it's so lovely to finally meet you. Jasper's told me so much about you. I forced a smile, trying to ignore the warning bells ringing in my head. Please call me Nora. Come in, both of you. As they entered, I couldn't help but notice Savannah's designer outfit and the way her eyes darted around our modest living room, assessing everything. Jasper seemed oblivious, his face alight with pride as he watched her. Can I get you anything to drink? I offered, leading them to the couch. Just water for me, Savannah replied, her tone suggesting that anything else would be beneath her. I'm on a very strict diet. I bit back a retort and headed to the kitchen, where Caleb was making coffee. Is that her? He whispered, peering around the doorframe. I nodded, filling a glass with water. Be nice, I warned, for Jasper's sake. When we returned to the living room, Savannah was examining the family photos on the mantel. Oh, Jasper, she cooed, you are such an adorable child. It's a shame you don't have any recent professional photos. They'd look so much more polished. I saw Caleb's jaw clench, but he managed a polite smile as he set down the coffee tray. I like our family photos. They capture real moments. Savannah's laugh was like tinkling glass. Oh, of course. But don't you think it's time for something a bit more sophisticated? Especially now that Jasper's about to start his own business. I raised an eyebrow at my son. Oh, I didn't realize you had concrete plans, Jasper. He shifted uncomfortably. Well, I'm still working out the details. But Savannah's been really supportive and has some great connections. That's right, Savannah chimed in, her voice syrupy sweet. My father knows some wonderful investors. Of course, they usually prefer to work with people who have substantial assets of their own. The implication hung in the air, heavy and accusatory. I felt my patience wearing thin. Jasper has a trust fund, I said evenly. It's meant to help him get started in life, including business ventures. Savannah's smile never wavered. Oh, how quaint. But surely, as Eli's widow, you have access to more significant resources? I mean, Jasper is the eldest son. It's only natural that he'd want to continue his father's legacy in grand style. I saw Caleb tense beside me, ready to jump to my defense. But this was my battle to fight. Eli's legacy, I said slowly, meeting Savannah's gaze, was about more than money. It was about integrity, hard work, and family. Those are the values we cherish in this house. Savannah's eyes narrowed slightly. Of course. But surely you want Jasper to succeed? To have the best of everything. What I want, I replied, my voice firm, is for both my sons to find their own paths and build lives they can be proud of, not lives dictated by societal expectations or external pressures. The room fell silent. Jasper looked between Savannah and me, confusion and frustration warring on his face. Mom, he started, but Savannah cut him off with a gentle touch on his arm. It's all right, darling, she said, her voice dripping with false understanding. I'm sure your mother will come around once she sees how successful you'll be. After all, what parent doesn't want the best for their child? I felt my temper flare. The best isn't always the most expensive or flashy, Savannah. Sometimes it's the hard-won victories and the lessons learned along the way. Savannah's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing a flash of contempt before her saccharine smile returned. Well, we all have different definitions of success, I suppose. Jasper, sweetheart, we should go. We don't want to be late for our dinner reservation. As they stood to leave, I caught a glimpse of the person Jasper used to be, uncertain, looking to me for guidance. But then Savannah's hand slipped into his, and his expression hardened. We'll talk later, Mom, he said, his tone clipped. After they left, Caleb and I sat in stunned silence. Well, Caleb finally said, that was a disaster. I finished, rubbing my temples. She's trouble, Mom. Can't Jasper see that? I sighed, thinking of Eli's warning. Love, or what we think is love, can blind us to a lot of things. But you're right. She's not here for Jasper. She's here for what she thinks he can provide. Caleb leaned forward, his expression serious. What are we going to do? I stood, walking to the window to watch Jasper's car disappear down the street. We fight for him, Caleb. We fight to remind him of who he really is, not who Savannah wants him to be. As I turned back to my younger son, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. Eli had trusted me to keep our family together, to prevent our boys from losing themselves. It wouldn't be easy, especially with Savannah's influence, but I was ready for the challenge. We'll start by showing Jasper that true success isn't measured in dollar signs, I said, a plan already forming in my mind. And we'll make sure Savannah understands that this family isn't her personal piggy bank. Caleb nodded, a determined glint in his eye. I'm with you, Mom. All the way. As we began to strategize, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a long and difficult battle. But with Eli's memory guiding me and Caleb by my side, I knew we stood a fighting chance. The war for Jasper's soul and our family's future had begun. The cafe bustled with the lunchtime crowd, but I barely noticed the noise. My eyes were fixed on the glittering diamond ring on Jasper's finger as he fidgeted nervously across the table. Mom, We have some news, he began, glancing at Savannah, who beamed triumphantly beside him. My heart sank. I forced a smile, already dreading what was coming. What is it, sweetheart? Savannah thrust her left hand forward, a massive diamond catching the light. We're engaged, she squealed, her voice carrying across the cafe. I swallowed hard, fighting to keep my expression neutral. That's quite a surprise. Congratulations. Jasper's face fell slightly at my lukewarm response. Aren't you happy for us, Mom? Before I could answer, Savannah jumped in. Of course she is, darling. She's just shocked by how quickly you swept me off my feet. She turned to me, her eyes glinting. It was so romantic, Nora. Jasper proposed at the country club, with a string quartet and everything. I raised an eyebrow at my son. The country club? I didn't realize you were a member. Jasper shifted uncomfortably. Well, Savannah's family are members. They've been very generous. I see, I said, my tone carefully measured. And when did all this happen? Just last night. Savannah gushed. We couldn't wait to tell you. And of course, to start planning the wedding. It's going to be the event of the season. I felt a headache coming on. That sounds expensive. Jasper leaned forward, his expression earnest. That's actually why we wanted to talk to you, Mom. We were hoping, well, with Dad's estate and everything, we'll need to access some of the funds, Savannah finished bluntly. For the wedding, of course, and to help us get started. Jasper's business plans are so exciting, and with the right investment. I held up a hand, cutting her off. Slow down, please. Jasper, can we talk privately for a moment? Savannah's smile faltered, but she recovered quickly. Of course. I'll just powder my nose. Don't talk about me too much while I'm gone. She sashayed away, leaving a cloud of expensive perfume in her wake. As soon as she was out of earshot, I leaned in close to Jasper. What are you doing? I hissed. You've known her for barely 2 months. Jasper's jaw set stubbornly. I love her, Mom. She understands me. supports my ambitions. Why can't you be happy for me? Because this isn't you, Jasper, I pleaded. Lavish proposals? Country clubs? What happened to the son who wanted to build his business from the ground up, to make his own way? Maybe I've grown up, he snapped. Maybe I've realized there's nothing wrong with wanting the finer things in life. Dad would have understood. The mention of Eli felt like a physical blow. Your father worked hard for everything he had. He didn't expect handouts or shortcuts. Jasper's eyes flashed. Is that what you think this is? A shortcut? I'm trying to secure our future, Mom. Savannah's connections could open doors for all of us. I shook my head, feeling the distance between us grow. And what does Savannah get out of this arrangement? What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm worried, Jasper. This is all happening so fast, and the way she talks about money. Stop. Jasper cut me off, his voice low and angry. I don't want to hear it. Savannah loves me for who I am, not what I have. But we do need your help to get started. It's my inheritance too, Mom. I have a right to it. Before I could respond, Savannah returned, sliding gracefully into her seat. Did I miss anything important? She asked, her tone innocent but her eyes sharp. Jasper took her hand, his expression hardening. Just filling Mom in on our plans. She's processing the news. Savannah's smile didn't waver. Of course, it's a lot to take in. But you'll help us, won't you, Nora? After all, family is everything. I looked between them, seeing the determination in Jasper's eyes and the calculation in Savannah's. In that moment, I made a decision. I'm sorry, I said firmly, but I can't give you access to the estate funds. The trusts are set up for specific purposes, and a lavish wedding isn't one of them. The silence that followed was deafening. Savannah's mask slipped for a moment, revealing a flash of fury before she composed herself. Jasper stood abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. I can't believe this. You're really going to stand in the way of my happiness? Jasper, please. No, he cut me off. I've heard enough. Come on, Savannah. We're leaving. As they stormed out of the cafe, leaving me alone at the table, I felt a mix of emotions wash over me. Grief for the son I felt I was losing, anger at Savannah's manipulations, and a deep, gnawing fear that I was failing to keep my promise to Eli. But beneath it all, a steely resolve began to form. I wouldn't let Savannah destroy our family or lead Jasper astray. As I gathered my things to leave, I made a silent vow. I would fight for my son, for our family's legacy, and for the values Eli and I had always held dear. The battle lines were drawn, and I was ready for war. The annual Thompson family barbecue had always been a joyous occasion, but this year, tension hung in the air like a storm cloud. I stood at the grill, mechanically flipping burgers, my mind racing with worry about the inevitable confrontation looming. Caleb appeared at my side, his voice low. Mom, are you sure inviting Jasper and Savannah was a good idea? I sighed, wiping my brow. They're family, Caleb. We can't shut them out, no matter how difficult things have become. As if on cue, a sleek sports car pulled into the driveway. Jasper emerged, looking uncomfortable in an outfit far too formal for a backyard barbecue. Savannah stepped out behind him, her designer sundress and oversized sunglasses a stark contrast to the casual attire of our relatives. Showtime, Caleb muttered, squeezing my arm supportively before moving to greet them. I watched as Savannah air-kissed Caleb's cheeks, her eyes already scanning the gathering. Jasper hung back, his posture tense. When his gaze met mine, I saw a flicker of the son I knew, uncertain, almost apologetic. But then Savannah's hand slipped into his, and his expression hardened. The next hour passed in a haze of forced small talk and thinly veiled tension. I could feel Savannah's eyes on me, calculating her next move. It came as I was serving dessert. Nora, darling, Savannah's voice rang out, silencing the chatter around us. I've been meaning to ask, have you given any more thought to our little chat about the wedding funds? I froze, acutely aware of every eye turning towards us. Savannah, this isn't the time or place. Oh, but when is? she pressed, her tone sickeningly sweet. You've been avoiding us for weeks. I think the family deserves to know how you're holding Jasper back from his potential. Jasper shifted uncomfortably. Savannah, maybe we should. No, Jasper, she cut him off. Your mother needs to understand what she's doing. Do you all know, she addressed the gathering, that Nora is refusing to release funds that rightfully belong to Jasper? Funds that could help him start his business, secure our future. A murmur rippled through the crowd. I felt my cheeks burn with a mix of anger and embarrassment. That's not true, I said firmly. Jasper has access to his trust fund, which was set up specifically to help him get started in life. What he's asking for goes far beyond that. Savannah's eyes narrowed. And who are you to decide what he deserves? Eli would be ashamed of how you're treating his son. The mention of Eli's name was the final straw. I opened my mouth to retort, but Caleb beat me to it. That's enough, he said, his voice quiet but steely. You have no right to speak for our father, Savannah. You didn't know him. Savannah turned on him, her mask slipping to reveal the venom beneath. Oh, the artist speaks. Tell me, Caleb, how does it feel to mooch off your mother while your brother tries to make something of himself? Gasps echoed around the yard. Caleb stood his ground unflinching. I work hard for everything I have. And unlike some people, I don't measure success by the size of my bank account or the brand of my clothes. How dare you? Savannah shrieked. Jasper, are you going to let them talk to me like this? All eyes turned to Jasper, who looked torn between loyalty to Savannah and the family he'd known his whole life. I don't. Choose, Jasper, Savannah demanded. It's me or them. Your future or your past. The silence that followed was deafening. I watched my son, my heart breaking as I saw the conflict play out across his face. Finally, he spoke. I'm sorry, Mom, he said softly, but Savannah's right. You're holding me back. I can't keep living in Dad's shadow, trying to live up to your impossible standards. The words hit me like a physical blow. I stumbled back, steadying myself against the picnic table. Jasper, please. But he was already turning away, Savannah's triumphant smile gleaming in the afternoon sun. We're leaving, she announced. And don't expect an invitation to the wedding. Clearly, you're not supportive of our happiness. As they stormed off, leaving a wake of shocked relatives behind them, I felt my world crumbling. Caleb's arm around my shoulders was the only thing keeping me upright. It's okay, Mom, he whispered. We'll figure this out. But as I watched Jasper's car disappear down the street, I wasn't so sure. Eli's last words echoed in my mind. Don't let them lose themselves. I'd failed him. I'd failed Jasper. As the stunned guests began to disperse, murmuring apologies and awkward goodbyes, I made a silent vow. This wasn't over. I wouldn't give up on Jasper, no matter what it took. Savannah may have won this battle, but the war for my son's soul was far from over. I turned to Caleb, my resolve strengthening. We need a plan, I said. And I think it's time we did some digging into Savannah's past. Something tells me there's more to her story than she's letting on. Caleb nodded, a determined glint in his eye. I'm with you, Mom. All the way. As we began to clean up the remnants of the disastrous barbecue, I felt a strange mix of despair and determination. The path ahead was unclear, but one thing was certain. I would fight for my family with everything I had. Eli's legacy and Jasper's future depended on it. The manila envelope felt heavy in my hands as I stared at the return address of the law firm. My heart raced as I tore it open, dreading what I might find inside. As I scanned the legal jargon, 2 words jumped out at me: contest and will. My worst fears were confirmed. Jasper and Savannah were taking legal action to challenge Eli's will. I sank into my chair, the room spinning. How had it come to this? My own son, willing to drag our family through a legal battle for money he hadn't earned. Mom, Caleb's voice snapped me back to reality. What's wrong? I handed him the letter wordlessly. His face darkened as he read. We need to confront them, he said, his voice tight with anger. This has gone too far. I nodded, steeling myself for the battle ahead. Call Jasper. Tell him we need to meet. All of us. An hour later, We sat in tense silence around the dining room table. Jasper refused to meet my eyes, while Savannah wore a smug smile that made my blood boil. "I assume you know why we're here," I began, my voice steadier than I felt. Savannah leaned forward, her eyes glinting. "To finally see reason and give Jasper what he deserves?" I ignored her, focusing on my son. "Jasper, look at me. Is this really what you want? To tear our family apart over money?" He shifted uncomfortably. "It's not just about the money, Mom. It's about fairness. Dad would have wanted. Don't you dare presume to know what your father would have wanted." I cut him off, my voice sharp. "Eli worked hard for everything we have. He believed in earning your way, not taking shortcuts." Savannah scoffed. "Please." Eli was just too short-sighted to see Jasper's potential. "Unlike you, we have ambition." Caleb slammed his hand on the table, making us all jump. "Ambition? Is that what you call manipulating my brother and trying to steal from our family?" "How dare you?" Savannah shrieked. "Jasper, are you going to let them talk to me like this?" But Jasper remained silent, his face a mask of conflicting emotions. I took a deep breath, centering myself. "Before this goes any further, there's something you both need to see." I pulled out a stack of documents I'd gathered over the past weeks. Bank statements, credit reports, and a detailed history of Savannah's past relationships and financial dealings. "What is this?" Jasper asked, his voice wary. "The truth," I replied, spreading the papers across the table. "About Savannah's past and her real motivations for being with you." Savannah's face paled as she recognized some of the documents. "Where did you get those?" "That's private information." I met her gaze steadily. "When you threaten my family, nothing is off limits. Did you really think I wouldn't investigate the woman trying to manipulate my son?" Jasper leaned forward, his eyes scanning the papers. "Mom, what are you talking about?" "Savannah has a history, Jasper. A pattern of attaching herself to wealthy men, draining their resources, and moving on to the next target. She's done it 3 times before you." The color drained from Jasper's face as he turned to Savannah. "Is this true?" She laughed nervously. "Of course not, darling. Your mother is clearly desperate. She's making things up to turn you against me." But I could see the doubt creeping into Jasper's eyes. "Then how do you explain these bank transfers? The maxed-out credit cards in other men's names?" Savannah's mask finally cracked. Her eyes narrowed as she hissed. "You have no idea what I've been through. I deserve a good life, and I'll do whatever it takes to get it." The room fell silent as the weight of her admission sank in. Jasper stared at her, shock and betrayal written across his face. "Jasper," I said softly, reaching for his hand. "I know you thought you were in love, but this isn't love. It's manipulation." He pulled away, standing abruptly. "I need some air." As he stormed out, Savannah turned on me, her face contorted with rage. "You've ruined everything. I'll make you pay for this." Caleb stepped between us. "I think it's time for you to leave, Savannah. For good." As she gathered her things, spewing threats and insults, I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. The battle was won, but at what cost? I found Jasper in the backyard, sitting on the old swing set where he and Caleb had played as children. He looked up as I approached, his eyes red-rimmed. "I'm so sorry, Mom," he whispered. "I've been such a fool." I sat beside him, wrapping an arm around his shoulders. "We all make mistakes, sweetheart. The important thing is learning from them." He nodded, leaning into me. "I don't know how to fix this. I've hurt you, Caleb, our whole family. We'll figure it out together," I assured him. "That's what family does." As we sat there, the weight of the past months finally lifting, I thought of Eli. I hoped, wherever he was, he could see that our family was finding its way back to each other. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There were wounds to heal, trust to rebuild. But as I held my son, I felt a glimmer of hope. We had weathered the storm and emerged stronger for it. The real work of healing our family was just beginning, but for the first time in months, I felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, we would honor Eli's memory and forge a new path forward, one built on love, understanding, and the unbreakable bonds of family. The coffee shop buzzed with mid-morning chatter, but I barely noticed as I stared at the file Miriam had just handed me. My hands trembled slightly as I flipped through the pages, each revelation more shocking than the last. "I can't believe you found all this," I whispered, looking up at my friend's grim face. Miriam leaned forward, her voice low. "It wasn't easy, Nora. Savannah's been careful, but she's left a trail. 3 wealthy families, 3 broken engagements, and a lot of missing money." I shook my head, still processing the information. "How did we not see this sooner?" "She's good at what she does," Miriam replied. "But everyone slips up eventually. The question is, what are you going to do with this information?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Jasper. "We need to talk. Can you meet me at the house?" I showed Miriam the message, a mix of hope and dread churning in my stomach. I guess I'm about to find out. As I pulled into the driveway of our family home, I saw Jasper's car already parked. My son stood on the porch, looking more like the boy I raised than the angry young man he'd become in recent months. "Mom," he said as I approached, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm so sorry. For everything." I pulled him into a hug, feeling his shoulders shake as he finally let go of the facade he'd been maintaining. "It's okay, sweetheart. We're going to fix this." Inside, we sat at the kitchen table where we'd shared so many family meals. Jasper's eyes widened as I placed Miriam's file in front of him. "What's this?" he asked warily. "The truth about Savannah," I replied gently. "And it's worse than we thought." As Jasper read through the documents, his face cycled through a range of emotions: disbelief, anger, and finally, a deep sadness. "I've been such a fool," he whispered, pushing the file away. "How could I not see it?" I reached across the table, taking his hand. "Love can blind us, Jasper. But it's not too late to make things right." He nodded, squeezing my hand. "What do we do now?" Before I could answer, the front door burst open. Savannah stormed in, her face a mask of fury. "What is this?" she shrieked, waving a piece of paper. "A restraining order? You think you can just throw me away like trash?" Jasper stood, placing himself between Savannah and me. "It's over, Savannah. I know everything." She laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "You don't know anything. You're nothing without me, Jasper. A pathetic mama's boy who can't stand on his own 2 feet." I watched my son's back stiffen, but his voice remained calm. "That's where you're wrong. I'm a Thompson. We don't need to steal or manipulate to succeed. We work hard and earn our place in the world." Savannah's eyes narrowed as she turned to me. "This is your doing, isn't it? You've poisoned him against me." "No, Savannah," I said, standing to join Jasper. "You did that all on your own." Her composure cracked, desperation seeping through. "You can't do this to me. I'll ruin you. I'll tell everyone how you mistreated me, how you tried to keep Jasper from his inheritance." "Go ahead," Jasper replied. "But first, you might want to take a look at this." He slid Miriam's file across the table. Savannah's face paled as she flipped through the pages. "How? Where did you get this?" she stammered. "It doesn't matter," I said firmly. "What matters is that it's over. You're going to leave my family alone, or we'll make sure every wealthy family in the state knows exactly who you are and what you've done." Savannah's shoulders slumped, the fight draining out of her. For a moment, I saw a glimpse of the scared, desperate woman behind the manipulative facade. "You don't understand," she whispered. "I had nothing. I was nobody. I just wanted a chance at a better life." Jasper's voice was gentle but firm. "There are better ways, Savannah. Honest ways. I hope you find them, but it won't be with us." As Caleb escorted a defeated Savannah out, Jasper turned to me, his eyes brimming with unshed tears. "I don't know how to thank you, Mom, for not giving up on me, even when I gave you every reason to." I pulled him close, feeling the weight of the past months finally lifting. "That's what family does, sweetheart. We fight for each other, no matter what." As we stood there, I thought of Eli. I could almost feel his presence, his approval warming the room. We had weathered the storm, emerged stronger, and kept our promise to him. What now? Jasper asked, his voice muffled against my shoulder. I smiled, a plan already forming. Now we rebuild. Together. As a family. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There were wounds to heal, trust to rebuild. But as I held my son, surrounded by the memories of our family's love and strength, I knew we would face whatever challenges came our way. Eli's last words echoed in my mind. Don't let them lose themselves. We had come close, but in the end, we had found our way back to who we truly were. And that, I realized, was the greatest victory of all. The gallery buzzed with excitement, a sea of well-dressed patrons admiring the vibrant canvases that adorned the walls. I stood in the center of it all, my heart swelling with pride as I watched Caleb confidently discuss his work with an influential art critic. He's really made it, hasn't he? Jasper's voice came from beside me, a hint of awe in his tone. I turned to my eldest son, noting the genuine happiness in his eyes.
He has.
And so have you, in your own way. Jasper nodded, his gaze drifting to the small business cards he held, advertising his new ethical investment firm. I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad things turned out the way they did, even the hard parts. I squeezed his arm, remembering the tumultuous journey that had brought us here. Your father would be so proud of both of you. As if summoned by our conversation, Caleb joined us, his face flushed with excitement. Mom, Jazz, you won't believe it. The Guggenheim wants to feature my work in their next exhibition. Jasper pulled his brother into a bear hug, their laughter drawing smiles from nearby guests. I always knew you had it in you, little bro. As I watched my son celebrate, I felt a presence beside me. Miriam handed me a glass of champagne, her eyes twinkling. You did it, Nora. You kept your promise to Eli. I took a sip, letting the bubbles dance on my tongue. We did it together. I couldn't have gotten through this without you, Miriam. She waved off my gratitude. That's what friends are for. Now, are you ready for the surprise? Before I could ask what she meant, Caleb clinked his glass, calling for attention. Everyone, if I could have your attention, please. There's someone very special I'd like to honor tonight. The crowd hushed as Caleb gestured for me to join him. Confused, I made my way to his side. This woman, Caleb began, his voice thick with emotion, is not just my mother. She's the backbone of our family, the one who held us together when we were falling apart. Mom, this is for you. He pulled a cloth off a nearby easel, revealing a stunning portrait. I gasped, recognizing myself and Eli, painted in Caleb's distinctive style. We were seated on our old porch swing, surrounded by swirls of color that seemed to pulse with life and love. It's called Legacy of Love, Caleb explained, because that's what you and Dad gave us. A foundation of love that could weather any storm. Tears blurred my vision as Jasper joined us, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. We owe you everything, Mom. Thank you for not giving up on us. The gallery erupted in applause, but I barely heard it. In that moment, I was transported back to Eli's hospital room, hearing his final request, take care of the boys, and don't let them lose themselves. As I hugged my sons, I knew I had fulfilled that promise. We had all lost our way for a time, but in the end, we had found our way back to each other and to the values that truly mattered. Later that night, as the last guests trickled out, I found myself alone in front of Caleb's portrait. I traced the lines of Eli's face, remembering the warmth of his smile, the strength of his embrace. We did it, my love, I whispered. Our boys are going to be just fine. A gentle breeze rustled through the gallery, carrying with it the scent of Eli's favorite aftershave. For a moment, I could almost feel his presence, his approval warming me from within. Jasper and Caleb appeared on either side of me, each taking one of my hands. What do you say we head home? Jasper suggested. I think this calls for a family dinner. Maybe we could make Dad's famous lasagna? Caleb grinned. Only if Mom promises not to burn the garlic bread this time. I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in years.
Deal.
But you're both on dish duty. As we left the gallery, arm in arm, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. We had weathered the storm of grief, greed, and betrayal and emerged stronger for it. Eli's legacy lived on, not in material possessions or grand gestures, but in the love that bound us together. In the end, that was the greatest inheritance he could have left us. The cool night air kissed my cheeks as we walked to the car, the stars twinkling overhead. I looked at my sons, Jasper, once lost but now found, his ambition tempered by wisdom, and Caleb, his talent finally recognized, his compassion a beacon for us all. In that moment, I felt a profound sense of peace wash over me. We had come full circle, from the depths of loss to the heights of redemption. And though the road had been hard, I wouldn't have changed a single step. As we drove home, the city lights blurring into a tapestry of possibility, I silently renewed my vow to Eli. I would continue to nurture the legacy of love we had built together, guiding our family toward a future bright with promise and rich with the values we held dear. The journey wasn't over. It never truly would be. But with the strength of our bond and the lessons we'd learned, I knew that whatever life threw our way, we would face it as we always had, together, as a family. And in that knowledge, I found a joy so pure, so complete, that it filled every corner of my being. This, I realized, was the true meaning of Eli's last wish. Not just to keep the boys from losing themselves, but to help us all find our way back to what really mattered. As we pulled into our driveway, the porch light a welcoming beacon, I smiled. We were home, in every sense of the word. And the best was yet to come.
I have a new girlfriend and I'm living with her. You are on your way back to the parents. I'm leaving you. What are you saying? I don't need you anymore. If you want to be the breadwinner or a cleanin' thing, you can keep my parents' company. Julian, you know my in-laws and husbands joke about me. They are the lowest of scum, but to me this is for the better. So you all need to leave. My name is Julianne, and I am a 35-year-old office worker. I have spent my whole life working. After graduating from college, I started working for a major company. For about 13 years, I worked hard and earned qualifications for promotions. Thanks to that, I am now a department manager at a young age. I am blessed with a boss who always has something useful to say and a team of highly motivated and talented subordinates. My work life was very fulfilling, but my personal life was not at all. I had a boyfriend once when I was a student, but none since I started working. Worried about my situation, a friend of mine hosted a dinner party for me. That is where I met Jake. He was kind, had a nice smile, and seemed very personable. Since he was the same age as me, we had a lot in common and enjoyed talking to each other. We soon became friends, exchanged contact information, and started going out to eat alone together. Then he confessed his feelings for me, and we started dating. We got along well. He proposed to me, and we ended up getting married. I was so happy to be married to the man I loved so much. Soon after, I went to his parents' house to meet them. His parents were very kind and welcomed me with open arms. Julian, it's nice to meet you. I can't believe such a beautiful person became Jake's bride. They cried. I am so proud of my son for bringing a good woman here. Hey, Mom and Dad, stop it. Julian is getting scared. Oh my, if you really think so, you can say it. That's right, it's a compliment, so it's okay. His parents were very friendly and easy to talk to, just like him. Julian works for a major company, doesn't she? Oh, that's great. It's cool to be a woman who can work hard. Will you quit your job when you get married? No, I'm going to keep working. Well, you've got a good job at a good company. That's better. I was relieved. According to my friends, their mothers-in-law often told them to quit their jobs, saying it was a wife's job to support her husband. So I was glad. I thought to myself that my future mother-in-law was generous. After greeting my parents, we got married. My heart was filled with excitement for the new married life that was about to begin. My husband moved into the house I was living in, and we started our new life together. I was very happy to be newlyweds with my husband, whom I loved very much. I was happy to be at home with him all the time and to have him home when I came back from work. 8 months into our life together, my husband said he had something he wanted to discuss with me. "If you don't mind, I'd like you to live with my father and mother." "What do you mean, live together?" "Yes, they are getting old, and I am worried about many things." "I see. I can certainly understand how my husband feels. My parents are about the same age as my husband's parents, but my brother and his wife are currently living with them, so I have nothing to worry about. However, my husband is an only child, so it is understandable that he is concerned about his parents." "Does this mean we are living with my in-laws?" "Yes, it would." "But do they have a room available for us?" "They use every room for some reason or another." "About that, if you like, I think it would be a good idea to renovate my parents' house and make it a 2-family house." "2 families?" "Yes, if we do that, it will be much cheaper than buying a new house. We can live in a beautiful and spacious house while still maintaining our privacy." "Right." "I see. I thought it was an attractive idea. My in-laws are kind people, and if we live in 2 houses, it won't be as stressful." "Yes, that's fine." "Really? Thank you. My mom and dad will be so happy." I was happy to see my husband so happy. Later, my in-laws came to visit us, and both of them were very grateful. I even thought that with such a kind and cheerful family, I wouldn't mind not having 2 households. Soon after, my husband and I discussed remodeling my in-laws' house. The cost would be around $200,000. As we were discussing it, my husband made a surprising remark. "Actually, I have a favor to ask you. Can you pay for the remodeling?" "What do you mean? The full amount?" "Yes." "Why?" My husband looked very uncomfortable. "Actually, we are in debt." I was shocked. Neither my husband nor my in-laws had ever mentioned this when we were dating or when we got married. "How much debt do they have?" "About $250,000. What I thought would be a few tens of thousands of dollars, but I was surprised at the amount. I ended up shouting out loud. It wasn't so bad at first, but it gradually grew. Even if I tried to pay it back, I couldn't. My parents are already living on a pension, and the debt is getting bigger and bigger. I see. I couldn't hide my surprise and upset at this sudden revelation. I had no idea that my in-laws owed such a large sum of money. "Julianne, I need a favor. Will you help me pay off my father and father-in-law's debt? They can't afford it anymore, and I don't make a very good salary either. Then isn't it going to be tough to renovate the house and live together as 2 families?" "No, that's important, so let's go ahead as planned. You have asked me to pay for the remodeling and your father's debt. I'm on the hook for $250,000. I know I'm talking about difficult things, but I want to take care of my life with you, Julianne, and I want to protect my mom and dad. It's because I love both my parents and you. I'm sorry I'm being greedy, but if you really love me, please help me. I'll pay you back little by little." I was very upset. My husband and my in-laws had no one to turn to but me. I knew my husband really loved me, but I felt deceived by his words. Love is blind, I thought. "Okay, I'll pay for it," I agreed. My husband said, "Thank you so much," and shook my hand. He told my in-laws, and later they came to our house to apologize. My mother-in-law even cried tears of joy. I have to do my best from now on, I thought. I had to take over my in-laws' debt and was determined to do it. Although I had some savings, I was afraid to pay it all at once. So I decided to pay $60,000 from my savings and then the rest in installments. My in-laws joined us to discuss the repayment. I explained my plan for installments, and they said I could do whatever I wanted. Why don't you transfer the money directly to the account for debt repayment? We're not very good at managing money, and I'm a little afraid to transfer a lot of money, my husband said. My in-laws nodded. It would be time-consuming for me to transfer the money to my in-laws' account, and then for them to transfer it to their repayment account. Since it was a large sum, I didn't want the money to get lost in the process. So I agreed to transfer it directly. Once the conversation was settled, my in-laws looked very relieved. Now we don't have to be afraid of the monthly debt collection. It's been really scary. Dad and Mom, you should thank Julianne properly. Well, I can't tell you how many times I thanked you. I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much. I'm so glad Julianne became his wife. No, 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 I said. I was happy that my in-laws were happy. However, I felt a little uncomfortable because I thought they might see me as just a money source. Even though I felt a bit bad, I wanted to take care of my beloved husband's family. With that in mind, I began to make the payments, and we remodeled our house, making it a two-family home. We started living together in a beautiful and spacious house. My in-laws were very happy, and my husband's eyes lit up at the new house. I enjoyed cooking in the new kitchen and was glad we did the remodeling. It was more convenient and closer to work, which shortened my commute and gave me more free time. I could use that time to study. I worked hard every day to pay off the debt. However, something bothered me. My husband did not help pay off the debt at all. When I told him about my in-laws' debt, he said he would help, but he never paid anything from his own paycheck. When I asked him about it, he said his salary was not enough. I asked to see his pay stubs, but he refused, so I didn't know how much he earned. I worked hard for about a year to pay off the debt. One day, my in-laws asked, "How much money is left to repay?" "If it's been a year, you haven't paid back that much, right?" "Well, we've paid back about $60,000 this year, so the remainder is roughly $180,000, I replied. My in-laws were extremely surprised. "What? You paid back that much, Julianne? That's amazing. At this pace, you'll finish paying off the loan in about 5 years. If I work hard, I'll be able to pay it off," I said. "Thank you so much," my in-law said, crying and happy. Seeing them so happy made all the hard work worth it. A few days later, I faced an unexpected situation. I had to work overtime, so I told my husband I would be home late. However, the work went smoothly, and we finished on time. I hurried home, planning to cook dinner for my husband. When I opened the front door, I saw my in-laws' shoes. "Oh, my in-laws are here," I thought. I walked toward the living room and heard my in-laws and my husband talking. "You were right to marry that woman, weren't you, Jake? You did great. I can't believe you got a woman with that much money." When I heard she works for a big company, I was really careful and seduced her. You should be more grateful. You're one of the people who created that debt. What? But I owe the least. What are you talking about? How much did you spend on horse racing? Your gambling is terrible. I get a jackpot once in a while, so sometimes we were actually ahead. How can you be ahead when you owed $250,000? But at this rate, we'll be able to get out of debt and get back on track. That's really great. And she even remodeled our house. I got a really good wife. Well, I'm going to dump her after she pays off the debt. My husband and in-laws laughed. I was so shocked I couldn't move from the front door for a while. After calming down a little, I made a loud noise as I closed the lock and said, "I'm home," from the front door. When I went to the living room, my in-laws and husband greeted me with smiles. "Oh, Julianne, welcome home. Good job, good job. Well, we're going back to our room. Let's have dinner together again soon." I was so afraid of their gentle smiles because I had heard their earlier conversation. Seeing my husband pretending to be a good husband with a smile on his face shocked me. "Why did you say you had to work late today?" "Yeah, but I finished earlier than expected, so I hurried home to cook dinner." I tried my best to act calm until dinner, so my husband wouldn't realize what I had heard. Later, when my husband was taking a bath, I stayed in my room and cried alone. Crying as hard as I could made me want to get back at my husband and in-laws. From then on, I acted quickly. I began to prepare for the divorce and made plans for what to do afterward. About 5 months passed. I pretended to be happy and told my husband that I had paid off my in-laws' debt. My husband's eyes widened. "What? You paid off the debt? That $250,000? That was supposed to take roughly 5 years, right?" Actually, I have quite a bit of money saved up, but I was afraid to pay it off all at once. So I started taking out a little bit from my salary and savings. But we're already below $200,000, and I thought it would be better to pay it all off at once. "I see," I said. Then I asked, "Do you mind if I check?" and showed my husband the bank book. Oh, it's true. $180,000 was paid all at once. My husband tried to hide his excitement, but I could see he was itching to get out of there. "Wow, Julianne, thank you. My parents are going to love this." He put his hands on his face, pretending to cry. But I knew it was just an act. Soon after, my in-laws came and thanked me. "Thank you so much. I'm so glad I met Julianne. You're like a blessing." If I hadn't known the truth, I would have been happy to hear their thanks. But I knew what they were really like, and I only acted nice because I was ready for my plan. A few days later, my husband asked to speak with me. He looked very serious. "What's going on?" I asked. "I'm sorry, Julianne, but you have to leave me." "What do you mean?" I acted surprised on purpose. "I have a new girlfriend." "What?" "I'm going to live here with her, so I'm divorcing you. You're going to my parents' place." I was shocked by Jake's unexpected statement. I knew from overhearing their earlier conversation that my husband would leave me once the debt was paid, but I didn't expect him to openly declare his infidelity. "What do you mean by sending me to your parents' place?" "I don't really understand what you mean," I said. My husband's mood turned sour. "You're not very understanding at all. I don't need you anymore, but as a breadwinner or a housekeeper, I can keep you here." Then the front door opened, and my in-laws came in. "Jake, did you finally tell her?" "Yeah, I told her. I wish I could have been there for that moment." "You can come to our house if you do the chores for us. Of course, we'll charge you rent." My in-laws and husband laughed at me. They were the worst people ever. "All of you need to leave," I said. My in-laws rolled their eyes at my comment. "What are you talking about?" "Have you forgotten I can easily pay for the renovation myself? You changed the name of the house to mine, so I have the rights to this house. I could decide who lives here and who has to leave." My in-laws' faces turned pale at my comment. They finally remembered about the house title. I was really dumbfounded. "I'm sorry, but you can't live here anymore. If we get divorced, you'll be strangers." My in-laws realized the seriousness of the situation. But my husband, not wanting to be outdone, retorted, "But you took over our debt and paid it in full. You're the one losing money. If we had no debt, we could at least afford a new place to live." "That's true. Thank you for letting us live in a nice house while you pay our debts," my in-laws and husband said. I'm sorry, but I didn't pay off the rest of the $180,000 debt. What? No, but you had money missing from your bank book. That was just a separate account I created and moved money around in. The debt hasn't changed from $180,000. I just haven't had the collections come yet because I've been paying large sums continuously. But it's time for them to come, so you are responsible for paying the rest. My husband and in-laws were shocked. Then I warned them, Jake, you told me you were having an affair, so you should pay. I'll charge your partner for the affair too. Oh no, she went out with me because she thought I had money in a house. If I have to pay alimony, she'll dump me. I don't care about that. No, I apologize. Please don't leave us, my husband pleaded. My husband was afraid of being dumped by his lover, and my in-laws were afraid of being left by me. They were truly selfish. I have nothing to do with you people anymore, no matter what you say. I have also put this house on the market. I will also have you pay the $120,000 debt I paid on your behalf through my lawyer. My in-laws froze, stunned by the loss of everything they had. I then demanded a divorce and alimony from my husband through my lawyer. I also demanded alimony from his lover and $120,000 from my in-laws for what I had paid. Actually, that renovated house sold for about $400,000. It was in a good location, and a family looking for a duplex bought it at a good price. I had to pay $320,000, which included the $120,000 debt and $200,000 for the renovation. However, I ended up gaining $80,000 from selling the house. Additionally, I received alimony from my ex-husband and his affair partner, which greatly improved my financial situation. On top of that, I got a $120,000 payment from my ex-parents-in-law. I ended up benefiting the most from this situation. I believe this is fair because the damage I suffered was significant enough to make me distrust people. Initially, I had savings because I was learning how to invest with the goal of paying off my in-laws' debts as quickly as possible. Since I had substantial savings to begin with, I invested tens of thousands of dollars, and my assets grew significantly in about a year. Additionally, I received a raise at work, so my earnings increased. Because of my savings and investments, I was able to take such drastic steps. My former in-laws ended up back in debt and lost their house, but they deserved it for deceiving me. People who cheat others should face the consequences. This experience has taught me the need to be more cautious and develop a better sense of judgment about people. Moving forward, I will continue to save and increase my assets so I can live a comfortable life in my old age. I want to make happy memories with people I can truly trust. For example, I started by focusing on improving my financial knowledge. I took courses and read books about investing and personal finance. This helped me make informed decisions about where to invest my money. Over time, I diversified my investments, spreading them across different asset classes like stocks, bonds, and real estate. This strategy helped grow my wealth steadily and securely. Furthermore, I took advantage of opportunities to advance my career. I sought out additional training and certifications related to my field. These efforts paid off when I received a significant promotion and raise. The increased income allowed me to save more and invest more aggressively. Through all of this, I remained focused on my long-term goals. I wanted to ensure that I could retire comfortably and enjoy my later years without financial worries. I also wanted to be in a position to help my loved ones if they ever needed support. This vision kept me motivated and disciplined. Eventually, my efforts paid off. I was able to buy a beautiful home in a great neighborhood. I also traveled to places I had always dreamed of visiting. More importantly, I built strong relationships with friends and family who truly cared about me. These connections brought me joy and fulfillment. Looking back, I realized that the challenges I faced with my ex-husband and in-laws taught me valuable lessons. They pushed me to become more self-reliant and financially savvy. They also helped me appreciate the importance of surrounding myself with trustworthy and supportive people. In conclusion, I transformed a difficult situation into an opportunity for growth by focusing on my financial health and personal development. I created a better future for myself. I hope my story inspires others to take control of their lives and make positive changes. What did you think of the story? Please subscribe to our channel and see you in the next video. You heard our conversation yesterday, right? My eldest son and his wife are coming back home for the birth of their child. So I need you to move your stuff out to the yard. Excuse me, you can't have kids anyway. You don't help with my son's work, so the least you could do is make some room. But I'm paying $20,000 in rent. This is getting too tiring to deal with. I live with my mother-in-law, but now she wants me out of the house because my brother-in-law and his wife are returning. My mother-in-law, brother-in-law, his wife, and my husband. This house is full of problems. I've been trying to keep things running smoothly, but it's becoming a hassle to think about it all. I'm done thinking. Okay, I'll leave, but I can't just put my belongings in the yard. I'll come back later to pick them up. You're leaving? Thank you, that's a big help, my mother-in-law said, ignoring my pleas. I started packing my things and left the house. 7 seconds after stepping out the door, I took out my phone and called a junk removal service. Once I stopped thinking, no one could stop my actions. I'm Kathy, a 43-year-old IT consultant. My husband, Eric, is also 43 and runs 4 restaurants. We're both 43, and people often assume we've been married a long time and have a kid or two. But we're actually newlyweds. We both lived as workaholics and didn't marry until this age. I had given up on marriage just before turning 43, but a random visit to a bar after work changed my mind. Is this your first time here? He asked. Yes, that's right. I had been curious about it for a while, but it was hard for me to go in alone because the place is so stylish. But I worked hard today, so I decided to go in as a reward to myself. I was relieved to find a counter where it was easy for a loner to spend time. We have many women who come alone, so feel free to visit anytime. My husband Eric chatted with me with a smile. I sat at the end of the bar. I knew he was just trying to attract a new customer, but for someone like me who had no friends to eat with at this age, even this kind of service felt nice. Feeling comfortable in Eric's restaurant, I started visiting often. I always sat at the end of the bar, and it became normal for Eric to chat with me while I ate. What does an IT consultant do? He asked. I introduce it to companies and do strategic planning. I've worked with restaurants too. Once I suggested a tablet-based ordering system to reduce labor costs and improve efficiency. Oh, the system that's become common. How much does that cost for a place like this? It would cost about this much, I said, punching numbers into my phone calculator and showing him the screen. No way, that's too much for a small business like mine. Eric shook his head and hands vigorously. Eric was curious and always eager to learn from our conversations. He looked for ways to apply new knowledge to his work. Even though it seemed like just a pleasant conversation, I was slowly drawn to his dedication. Likewise, Eric grew fond of me, seeing that I was hardworking. I'm always busy with work and can't talk much. How about we go out for dinner sometime? Excited about the chance to dine with a restaurateur, I eagerly agreed. I was thrilled to be asked out, but saying something so girlish at nearly 43 would be embarrassing. So let's just leave it at that. My husband didn't just ask me out that one day. He continued to invite me out for meals occasionally. It's natural for adult men and women who frequently dine together to develop a romantic relationship. We started dating, and 3 years later, as we both turned 43, we decided to get married. Feeling shy about being a bride at 43, I asked my husband to skip the wedding ceremony. We just took some photos of us dressed up. After we got married, I moved from my apartment to my husband's house. His house is a 4-story building with a garden and parking, located in a high-end area. The rent is apparently around $22,000. My husband was living there with his mother. Some might think it's unthinkable to live with a mother-in-law right after getting married, but I'm 43, so I didn't mind much. Plus, my mother-in-law is 71, and my father-in-law has passed away, so living together seemed necessary. When my husband suggested living with his mother, I immediately said it was okay. But after starting to live with my mother-in-law, I regretted accepting so quickly. When I moved into my husband's house, besides the bedroom for us, I even got a nice office room for myself. His house seemed too big for just 2 people, with many spare rooms. Once I settled in, I asked my husband, "Why do we need such a big house just for you and your mother?" He replied, "I have a brother 4 years older than me. He left home after college, and we've mostly lost touch. He hasn't been home at all, and it's been a few years since I've heard from him. He's been moving from job to job and place to place. He's the kind of man who might get into trouble and come back to me and Mom. So we decided to rent a bigger house. I think it's a little too big, but now that I'm married and you've moved in, I guess it all worked out." While unboxing my books and arranging them on the shelf, my husband talked about his brother Stephen with a smile. It seems Stephen is aimlessly hopping from job to job, but my husband doesn't think badly of him. "Don't talk about that kid. What if he really comes back?" My mother-in-law appeared at the doorway of what would be my office, seemingly checking on us. It appears she doesn't have a good opinion of him, unlike my husband. It's understandable for a mother to be cold towards an elder son who shirks his responsibilities. However, I'm worried that my husband and my mother-in-law might clash over his brother someday. Also, I'm not too fond of you either, Mom. Come on, we're going to live together now, so stop saying things like that. I'm not saying you should leave. I just need to make things clear from the start." My mother-in-law said as she walked away, her slippers making a padding sound. "I'm sorry. I'll talk to her," my husband said. "It's okay. I got a similar talk when we met for the wedding. I'll build a relationship with your mother as we live together," I replied, taking a book from my husband's paused hands and placing it on the shelf. It seemed she doesn't like my age. I'm 43, so it's not impossible to have children, but I guess it's a challenging thought. Also, Eric's elder brother Stephen is not married and has no children, so there's a high chance that my mother-in-law won't get to see her grandchildren. That's why she's disappointed and wishes Eric had married someone younger. To her, Stephen, who doesn't fulfill his role as the eldest son, and I, who can't fulfill my role as a wife, in her eyes are probably the same. I understand her feelings, but I can't change my age. Once the move was finished and our married life began, my mother-in-law's coldness towards me became clear. She ignored me when I spoke and tried to avoid me. It's a bit lonely, but since there's no harassment or physical violence, I guess it's okay for now. I could build a relationship with her over time. My bigger concern is Eric. "Are you okay with your work?" I asked. "No, it's pretty bad. I need to take action soon, but it's tough to arrange the finances," Eric said, sitting at the dining table with his head in his hands. I stopped doing the dishes and sat down in front of him to listen. These are tough times. Prices are soaring, expenses are climbing, and customers are tightening their wallets. There's no end in sight. If this keeps up, I might have to close another one of our stores, he continued. About a year into our marriage, the situation at Eric's restaurants worsened. One of the 4 stores had already closed, and it seemed another might have to shut down too. Seeing Eric's troubled face made me feel distressed. But my mother-in-law seemed unaffected by these troubles. You're Eric's wife, but you don't help out at the store. You just do your own job. Can you really say you're fulfilling your role as a wife? My mother-in-law overheard our conversation and hurled insults at me from her seat on the sofa. I wondered what she was thinking, but she has her own perspective. Eric has been running his own restaurant for nearly 12 years, overcoming various challenges. I believe he'll pull through this time too. You, his wife, shouldn't be making that face. Are you trying to feed into his anxiety and make him fail? What a terrible wife, she shouted again from the living room to the dining room. Her words were filled with spite and venom. I knew she wasn't just trying to fire me up, but she wasn't entirely wrong. I took her words positively and decided to support Eric to the fullest. Smiling reassuringly at my anxious husband, a year later, just as she said, Eric managed to turn the situation around and avoided closing the second store. See, I told you. A stupid wife who can't even trust her husband. Don't drag Eric down, she said. As a side effect, my mother-in-law, who had previously ignored me, started lashing out at me without reservation. The relationship with her might seem to have worsened, but since Eric's business is doing well, I'll consider it a break-even situation. I thought things were balanced, but it turned out worse for me. Eric, having stabilized the business, and with a bit more money, seemed to get carried away, and I heard rumors about his affair. What is he thinking? If there's extra money, there are surely better ways to spend it. Also, it's strange how bad situations tend to pile up. Having seen Eric's business revenue drop, I know this all too well, but I never thought it would happen to me, Eric. Stephen called. His girlfriend is pregnant. That's great news. She's a 33-year-old who worked at the same bar as Eric. They asked something. What? You're being so formal all of a sudden. Stephen is a freelancer, and so is his pregnant girlfriend. With a baby on the way, they're struggling. They asked if they could move into this house, and if they could work at your restaurant. I was thinking about how to confront Eric about the affair when my mother-in-law came into the living room and started talking to him. The conversation was about Stephen, whom I've never met, and I was completely left out as they continued talking. It was a strange scene. She used to dislike Stephen for not fulfilling his role as the eldest son, yet now she was asking Eric to welcome him. The reason was simple: the grandchild. She had given up hope of seeing a grandchild, but now saw an opportunity and completely changed her stance. She was even planning to offer them a home and jobs. Eric, who never thought badly of Stephen, had rented this big house for such a time, but the situation has changed. And now I'm here. Isn't it odd to have Stephen and his family move in? I looked at Eric in the living room from the dining area. He was looking back at me with a clearly troubled expression. Come on, it's a good thing Stephen is in trouble and you, Eric, have the means to help him. Ah, okay, I got it. Eric sighed, unable to say no to his mother. I had hoped he would stand up to her, but it seems it was just wishful thinking. He kept glancing at me, probably worried about my reaction. The worsening relationship with my mother-in-law, Eric's affair, now living with Stephen and his family, the problems just keep piling up. Overwhelmed and not knowing where to start, I decided to abandon things for today and just go to sleep. The next day was a holiday, and probably due to extreme mental fatigue, I slept in until late morning. Eric was at work, so it was just my mother-in-law and me at home. Dreading what she might say about my sleeping in, I reluctantly headed to the living room. "You sure slept in. Must be nice to have such leisure," she said, bracing myself for her usual nagging about not fulfilling my duties as a wife. I tensed up, ready for her words. However, what she said was much worse than I expected. "You heard Eric and me talking yesterday, right? Stephen and his wife are coming back for a maternity leave visit, so move your stuff out to the yard." Excuse me, was I still groggy from sleep? Did she really mean I should live in the yard, or was she telling me to leave the house? You can't have kids anyway, and you don't help with Eric's work, so you should at least make room for Stephen and his family. We have 2 spare rooms left, so if you leave and your office is free, we can have a bedroom and a nursery for Stephen's family and a storage room for their stuff. Don't you think the room count and usage are just perfect? It seemed she was indeed telling me to leave. A storage room for Stephen's family. I'm being kicked out to make room for something that doesn't even seem necessary. Originally, I was allowed to use the office because there were spare rooms. I don't mind losing the office. A bedroom for Eric and me is enough. Stephen's family can live here without me. Leaving, realizing that my mother-in-law now sees no reason for me to be in this house as a wife, since she can see her grandchild, I thought about the $20,000 I was paying in rent. I'm too tired to deal with all this. I decided to clear my mind and rest. Silent with my mother-in-law, the only sound in the living room was the ticking of the clock. Okay, time to leave. After resting my mind, I decided it was too much trouble to worry about what happens to Eric, my mother-in-law, Stephen's family, and their future. I chose to leave the house. Understood. I'll leave. I can't put all my belongings in the yard, so I'll come back later to pick them up. You're leaving? Thank you, that helps, my mother-in-law said, pleased. Ignoring her, I started packing my things and left the house. 7 seconds after stepping out the door, I took out my phone and called a junk removal service. My decision made after stopping my overthinking couldn't be stopped by anyone. Let them all regret this choice later. I left the house. I decided to stay at a hotel for a while. I had called the junk removal service, but they needed some time to prepare. This worked out since I wanted some time too. 3 weeks after leaving, I rented an apartment and started living alone. I haven't heard from Eric since then. He probably thinks I'll come back eventually. The thought of Eric taking the current situation lightly infuriates me. However, today is the day after his restaurant's day off. I expect a call from Eric when he visits the restaurant for lunch prep. Hey, what's going on here? The restaurant is completely empty, just as I thought. Eric called. I could explain over the phone, but it would be more efficient if your mom was there too. I'm heading to the house now. Can you come back? You can't open the restaurant anyway, right? I couldn't help but laugh before hanging up, amused by Eric's reaction. He must be quite shocked. Still chuckling, I started getting ready to leave. When I arrived at the house, my mother-in-law started yelling at me. What on earth is this? The restaurant's fridge, cooking equipment, tables, all the important stuff is gone. You did this, didn't you? Do you think you can get away with this for free? It seems Eric had explained half of the situation. There was an unfamiliar couple in the living room, apparently Stephen and his wife. They looked confused and anxious, not fully grasping the situation and my mother-in-law's extreme anger. Why would you do such a thing? The restaurant can't operate now. My mother-in-law screamed. It's my restaurant, so there shouldn't be a problem with me starting the closing process or having the items I'd bought disposed of by a junk removal service, right? I replied, Your restaurant? What are you talking about? My mother-in-law asked, Why don't you explain, Eric? You haven't told your mom, have you? You remember that I still have the main restaurant and the second branch, and the second one was in a financial crisis, right? Right. Yes, of course, you worked hard to turn it around, changing the tables, chairs, signboard, the restaurant's atmosphere, bringing in new cooking equipment, expanding the menu, and replacing the fridge and freezer to accommodate the new menu, right? Well, about that, Kathy actually paid for those expenses. What? What do you mean? Hearing Eric's words, my mother-in-law looked perplexed. She seemed to be trying hard to understand, but probably lacked the full information to grasp everything. Eric continued, looking uncomfortable, like he was holding back from saying more, but it was clear this was going nowhere. I decided to explain everything. Before turning 43, I was single and working in consulting. We didn't have a wedding ceremony, nor did we buy a new house after getting married, so I had saved up quite a bit of money. I lent Eric $400,000 to help turn around his struggling second restaurant branch. $400,000? But you can't just hand over such a large amount of money to your spouse, right? That's why I decided to buy the rights to the second branch and become its owner. I left most of the management to Eric, so there wasn't much for me to do as the owner. The only change was that Eric shifted his focus from the main branch to the second one for its recovery. When Eric's restaurant was in crisis, I showed my concern alongside him. It was when my mother-in-law yelled at me for not showing enough trust in my husband that I decided to support Eric to the fullest. My form of support was giving him the money I had saved during my single years. Eric, is this true? She asked. Yeah, it's true. She said it was okay if I failed and wasted the $400,000 she gave me the money. But since it was such a large amount, if it was going to fail anyway, she suggested becoming the owner. The plan was to pay back the borrowed $400,000 from the restaurant's earnings. But it was simpler for Kathy to become the owner and have the restaurant's income go directly to her. It also meant that she could decide whether to close the restaurant or not. It's a lie. Can something like that really happen? My mother-in-law exclaimed, I understand. It's hard to believe hearing this all of a sudden. That's why I brought some evidence. I spread documents like the business license, transfer of rights agreement, and lease agreement on the table, proving that I was the owner of the restaurant. My mother-in-law's face turned red as she confirmed my name on those documents. Why didn't you say anything about this? You always talked about how you believed in Eric and how the restaurant was recovering. Right, even before we got married, you always encouraged Eric like that. He felt pressured by your words, but tried to live up to your expectations, not wanting to disappoint you as the head of the household. You're pretty cold to people like me and Steven who don't fulfill their roles, right? That's why Eric couldn't tell you he borrowed a large sum of money from me. He could have just told me, she protested. That's why Eric couldn't speak his mind because she gets upset easily. People like my mother-in-law often don't realize they're putting pressure on others. They might think it's just a small thing to say, but for the one under pressure, it's a huge burden. Not something they can easily talk about. And even if they did speak up, she would likely be disappointed and start complaining. It was essential not to let Eric's spirit break under her constant jabs, especially when the restaurant was finally turning around. That's why I kept quiet too, but I really wish she had refused when Steven and his family were coming back. Probably Eric thought it was work-related and agreed without thinking much. Mom Kathy said, I'm sorry, this situation is my fault for not being decisive enough. If I had managed the restaurant well from the start, Kathy wouldn't have had to lend her money. And if I wasn't so weak, I could have told you the truth. If Kathy decides to close the restaurant, then that's it. But what about the part-time workers? My mother-in-law asked. Don't worry. In the past 3 weeks, I've already informed everyone about closing the restaurant, and they all understood. For those interested, I've arranged part-time work at other restaurants through my IT consulting contacts. That's a relief. That was my only concern. So everyone was in on this. Kathy showed me an empty restaurant as a surprise, and everyone kept the closure from me. Eric, I'm sorry too. I've been pressuring you and Kathy. I'm sorry for everything up to now. I will tell you to leave again. My mother-in-law apologized. And it seemed as if everything was resolving nicely, but that's a misunderstanding. I'm far from being satisfied, and the discussion is far from over. Let's settle this matter next. What's this? And divorce papers. When I placed the divorce papers on the table, Eric picked them up in shock. What does this mean? Why a divorce? This is supposed to be a reconciliation, right? Don't just assume we've reconciled. You might think it's a secret, but I know about your affair with the part-timer. All the part-time workers knew about it too. That's just a rumor. You can't say things like that without proof. I displayed an image on my smartphone that a part-time worker had sent me and placed it on the table amidst the scattered documents. This is a photo of you entering a hotel. It was taken by one of the part-timers if you leave the restaurant together and walk towards the nearby hotel district. Anyone can take such evidence, not just the police or detectives. Did getting the second branch back on track give you too much confidence? You really got carried away. As the owner of the restaurant, I couldn't do much in the day-to-day operations, but I still visited the restaurant from time to time. That's when the part-time workers told me about Eric's affair and asked for my help. When I promised to handle it, they provided incredible support. They sent me proof and even kept the closure of the restaurant a secret from him. Wait a minute. Closing the second branch in a divorce. What's going to happen to the rent for this place? Eric asked. The rent for this place? What do you mean? My mother-in-law asked. I haven't mentioned that yet. I've been paying the entire rent of $20,000 a month for this house, I said. Is that also true? She asked Eric. It's true. When the restaurant's revenue started falling, Kathy started paying half of it. But as revenue continued to drop, the amount she had to cover increased. Eventually, she ended up paying it all. $20,000 a month is the same as my salary, so I paid all the rent, and Eric covered other living expenses like food and utilities. So if Eric gets divorced and only has the main restaurant left, obviously living here won't be an option anymore. Eric and my mother-in-law seemed deflated after hearing my words. They slumped as if they had exhausted themselves in a boxing match. Stephen and his wife, now somewhat understanding the situation, hesitantly joined the conversation. What does that mean? We came back here and can't live here, Stephen asked. Wait, Stephen, this is different from what we heard. We thought everything would be fine once we got back home, his wife said. Sorry, Stephen. Right now, I don't have the means to help you with a restaurant or a house. Come on, do something. We're having a baby. At least give me a job, Stephen said. We have enough part-timers. In fact, we need to cut down on staff costs. Eric will work hard, so just wait a bit longer, I said. That's what I'm talking about. Stop saying things like that. Hey, what about my house and job now? Stephen shouted. Eric, my mother-in-law, and Stephen started arguing about their future lives. Stephen's wife, whose name I still didn't know, looked uncomfortably out of place. I had delivered the news about the restaurant's closure and the divorce, so my business here was done. I was tired of constantly trying to smooth things over with Eric and his family, and I refused to live with Stephen and his wife. I didn't care what happened to this house next. They could discuss it amongst themselves. I left the house amidst their shouting. After that, having evidence of the affair, I was able to divorce Eric smoothly. I could have demanded alimony for the affair, but I had a job and didn't need the money. I wanted as little to do with my ex-husband and his family as possible, so I didn't ask for any compensation. After our divorce, my ex-husband Eric couldn't afford the rent and had to leave the house with his whole family financially and emotionally strained. Eric, who had been taking care of his mother, argued that it was actually Stephen's responsibility as the eldest son. But Stephen, who came back without any money, couldn't take care of her. This led to an ugly fight between the brothers about who should take care of their mother. In the end, with no income, Eric had to take her in. But this fight ruined the relationship between the brothers. As a result, Stephen and his wife disappeared again, cutting off all contact. Witnessing the brothers' dispute over her, the mother-child relationship also deteriorated. Now Eric and his mother are living together reluctantly in a smaller apartment. It's not as spacious as the previous house, and they have to see each other all the time, but they hardly talk, creating an awkward atmosphere in the house. My actions, prompted by thinking ahead, resulted in the breakdown of a family relationship. After the divorce, I first dealt with closing down the restaurant. It was a bit of a hassle, but as the owner, it was my responsibility. However, the fridge, cooking equipment, tables, and chairs I had removed were fairly new, so I managed to sell them at a good price. Adding just a little more money allowed me to finish the restaurant's closure. Though it was a brief period, being a restaurant owner and handling its closure was an experience. I believe these experiences will be useful in my consulting work someday. I guess work suits me better than marriage. Convinced of this, I continue to work hard today. All right, guys, I'm going to divorce a girl slave who won't help with housework. Well, out of nowhere, Tom, my husband, walked into the room. With those words, he looked down at me as I sat in a chair below him, returning only an evil grin. I mean, this is seriously a waste of space, but I'll keep you on board, because we need the numbers. Ah, the meal now, Tom said, getting angry. Being 9 months pregnant, he kicked me in the belly. No, please don't, I cried. She attacked me and I fell to the floor with a tablet in my hand. Word for word I was thinking, I'm falling, to remember my belly. The impact in my fall sent pain throughout and across my body. After the initial scream, I couldn't even speak my pain, holding onto my stomach. A shout of anger flew from somewhere towards my husband, who kept kicking me, saying, "Hurry up." What awaits such a husband after this? My name is Emily, and I'm 29 years old. I live with my husband Tom, who is 3 years older than me. We were about to become a family of 3, as I was in my 9th month of pregnancy. This was my first time having a baby, and somehow I had managed to reach a stable period while staring at a maternity magazine. That didn't mean I could relax. I spent every day exploring various things that I should and shouldn't do. I had only seen morning sickness on TV dramas, but when I experienced it, I realized how hard it could be. I realized how difficult childbirth is and how great mothers are. I was looking forward to the day when the baby would be born safely. However, one worry arose. It was about my husband, Tom. When I told Tom about my pregnancy, he celebrated with a triumphant pose, exclaiming, "Yes." I imagined a bright future filled with nonstop smiles between Tom, our soon-to-be-born baby, and me. I believed we could build a happy family together. However, as I grappled with the uncertainties of my first pregnancy, struggled with physical challenges, and was bedridden due to morning sickness, Tom, who had always been kind, began to change. "I'm home. Why are the lights off?" he asked. "Sorry, I've been feeling faint since this morning," I replied. "So you didn't do anything again?" he retorted. "Yes. That's why I tried to call you to either eat out or bring something home," I explained. I was on the move. "How could I take your call? What about my dinner?" he shouted, raising his voice and lashing out at things around him. I wanted to tell him there were some pre-made hamburgers and dumplings in the freezer, but if I did, would he, tired from his day, interpret it as me asking him to cook for himself? He'd probably scream at me. Tom's attitude suggested he didn't care about my health, especially when he was hungry. He clicked his tongue in annoyance, left the house without a word, and when he came back, he only brought food for himself. He flaunted his meal, didn't clean up, drank heavily, and went to sleep. After seeing Tom off to the bedroom, I managed to get up and try to eat whatever I could for the sake of our unborn baby. Sitting in the quiet living room, I felt a deep sadness, and tears began to flow. I couldn't grasp how the happy family life I had dreamed of just days ago was now on the brink of collapse. Tom and I were what people call office romance couples. We both worked at a major global company called Brown Company. Tom was in the marketing department, while I served as an executive assistant and handled accounting tasks. It was during one of these accounting tasks that Tom came to me with documents from his department, and that's when he took a particular interest in me. From that day on, he made his move on me. It was, in essence, love at first sight for Tom. At first, I wasn't interested, but his straightforward and earnest approach, combined with his visible strength in leading his subordinates, drew me to him. That's how our relationship started. He had been such a wonderful person, making me dream of a happy family since we started dating. If I stopped being lazy and properly took care of the household, would Tom be kind to me again? Deciding so, I adjusted my waking time to be earlier to accommodate my sluggishness and ensured to move with plenty of leeway. Although I had been allowed to work from home, I still had to work. Come on, I can do this. Actually, I didn't take maternity leave and was given a work-from-home job. Some of the secretarial tasks, such as schedule management and contacting managers, could be done remotely from home. Above all, I wanted to save as much as possible for our upcoming child. Thus, while maintaining my spirits and making adjustments, I somehow secured a living rhythm. I woke up earlier than Tom in the morning and prepared breakfast properly. I didn't prepare lunch since I usually use the company cafeteria. After sending Tom off, I was able to move at my own pace until he returned at night, resting my body while handling work and household chores. That was my daily routine. However, Tom did not change his attitude towards me and, on the contrary, became colder day by day. On the weekend, I was feeling unwell from the morning. Despite the alarm clock ringing, I couldn't get my body up and unintentionally overslept until Tom's waking time. "Hey, wake up. Didn't I tell you I'm going out because I have a golf outing for entertaining clients today? You want me to go out without eating?" he shouted. "I'm sorry. It's just really tough," I replied weakly. With only those words coming out, he furiously kicked the bed and yelled at me, calling me useless. While shriveling up from his loud voice and impact, I uttered an unnecessary word. "You always do everything right." It just so happens that today, I started to say, "Huh, what are you getting defiant for? It's normal for a housewife to do it properly every day," he shouted, raising his voice and beginning to take his anger out on objects nearby. The sound of objects colliding and breaking resonated throughout the room. "I'm sorry, please stop," I apologized, frightened, while covering my ears. From that point on, our conversations dwindled. I kept my distance when Tom seemed in a bad mood and apologized when he said something. Of course, I hadn't done anything wrong. Can I give birth while feeling this insecure? I considered going back to my parents' house for the birth, but seeing our baby might bring back the old Tom. He might be happy like when I told him about the pregnancy. I decided to gamble on that faint hope. After Tom had left and some time had passed, I staggered to get up, beginning to clean up the items he had angrily thrown onto the floor. Among them was a picture frame that held a photo of us snuggling together from when we were dating. Now mercilessly shattered, its glass surface broken, it seemed to tell me that there was no turning back, and tears streamed down my face. Then the doorbell rang. It was just past 10:30 when I checked the clock. Who could it be? Tom doesn't ring the doorbell. I wiped my tears and welcomed the unexpected visitor. "Hi, who is it?" I asked. "Emily, it's Catherine," a friendly and gentle voice answered. I hurriedly opened the door to the unexpected visitor. "Catherine," I said. I must have had a terrible look on my face. Catherine extended her plump hand and, seeing my face, said, "Oh dear, what happened?" "What's wrong? You look pale." "Catherine," I cried, tears soaping my cheeks at her kindness. "Catherine is the wife of the president of Brown Company, where Tom and I work. From my grandfather, we've gotten to know her, and Catherine, who doesn't have children, dotes on me as if I were her own daughter. Before my pregnancy, I used to visit Catherine or the president's house to learn how to cook. Apparently, Catherine used to be a cooking class teacher in the past, and since I love cooking, she decided to teach me. This might be the first time Catherine has visited me. I explained everything to her about how Tom had changed. Seeing the state of the room, it seemed like Catherine realized this was no ordinary situation. "Have you talked to my husband about Tom?" she asked. "No, this is a problem between the two of us, and I think it's my fault for not behaving the way Tom wants me to." "I've never had a child, so I can't speak arrogantly," I replied. "I didn't know that. It's cruel to treat you, Emily, who has been blessed with a precious life, that way," she said, getting angry on my behalf. "If he behaves like that at home, I don't know what he's like at the company," she speculated. Catherine mentioned it might be a classic case of not feeding the fish you've caught. After listening to my whole story, she tidied up the scattered items and made me rice porridge with egg. Originally, she came to get me nutritious food, researching and making me side dishes and fruits that are gentle for pregnant women. "Contact me immediately if anything happens, no matter what time it is." "I'll rush over for you, Emily," she said. "Thank you, Catherine," I replied. Catherine waved her hand, looking back many times as she left. Talking to Catherine relieved my mental anxiety, and with the food she brought, I gradually regained my strength. One day, after a night like that, Tom, who had been out drinking somewhere, did not wake up even at his usual time. I prepared meals during that time and decided to work remotely since I had received a call from the company. How much time had passed? The room door opened vigorously without a knock. I was having a casual conversation with someone from the company for the first time in a while after finishing an important meeting. Surprised, I looked towards the door to see Tom glaring at me with narrowed eyes. "I'm trying to sleep here because I'm tired." "Who are you talking to?" "You seem to be having a good time laughing, huh? Cheating on me?" "What a life you have," he said, aggressively approaching me. "I'm divorcing a useless slave who doesn't do household chores, okay." "Lol," he said, looking down on me, smirking from above. It seemed he misunderstood that I was cheating while talking to someone on the phone, which was just work. "Okay, you're so shameless. Damn it, I'm keeping you around even though you're useless." Go prepare your master's meal at once, Tom said, furious with anger. He did something unthinkable. He kicked the leg of the chair I was sitting in with all his might. Unprepared for the sudden incident, I, along with the tablet I was holding, fell from the chair to the floor. On falling, I thought for a moment, but at least I could shield my stomach. However, the impact of the fall transmitted pain throughout my body. After my initial scream, I held my stomach desperately, unable to make a sound due to the pain. "Don't mess with me," Tom said, kicking my stomach repeatedly. Shielding my stomach, I let out a voiceless plea, "Stop." Then from somewhere, a furious voice flew towards my husband, Tom. "You bastard, what are you doing to Emily?" The voice came from the tablet that had fallen with me. The fallen tablet happened to lean against the leg of the desk, showing me being kicked to the person connected remotely. "What the?" The voice sounded loud for a phone call. Tom, thinking that what I dropped was a phone, squatted down to peek towards the voice and was startled. There were eyes glaring at him like a demon. With pain becoming unbearable, I summoned my voice, "Please call an ambulance." Amidst a pain like I'd never felt before, a pain so severe it felt like I might pass out if I let my guard down, I managed to let out a sound. "After that monkey show, now you're playing sick." "Oh," Tom snickered through his nose, dismissing my plea. But then a scolding came from the tablet once again. "You idiot. Do you think those anguished cries are fake? Call an ambulance immediately." "Shut up. Who are you, old man?" Tom cussed at the other person on the screen. But his face paled when he saw another person on the screen. "I'll call the ambulance," said the W president displayed on the screen. With a familiar face of the president and an elderly man unknown to Tom Johnson, I heard everything you did. "How foolish are you? Are you even human? No this." "Eyes. That's right. It's just physical affection." "So sorry, President," Tom said, making an utterly unsightly excuse. He was yelled at again by the elderly man. "You devil. Where does kicking a pregnant woman in the stomach repeatedly count as physical affection? Moreover, she is my precious granddaughter." "Ha, who the hell are you, anyway?" Tom asked. The one to stop Tom, who was raising his voice, was President White Johnson. "Don't tell me you are unaware of the face of our company's chairman, Mr. John Brown. Or you don't know that Emily is the chairman's granddaughter." Tom couldn't believe his ears, and with good reason. He did not know that I am the granddaughter of John Brown, the chairman of Brown Company. My father, chasing his dreams since his student days, did not take over Brown Company, which was run by his father, my grandfather. After my grandfather, John, became chairman, he hardly showed his face at the company, so he was a somewhat hidden kind of presence. Even though my maiden name is Emily Brown, it probably went unnoticed. However, I had no intention of keeping it a secret indefinitely, and I had told Tom that I wanted him to meet my grandfather. Tom had agreed, saying he had to go and greet him, and I was planning to introduce him. As a surprise, when they met, neither Tom nor I could have dreamed that they would meet under circumstances where he was seen being violent to me. Tom Pei was standing stunned as President White delivered the cloudy grace. "I must consider your punishment," President White began. "Wait, please, President. I really meant it as physical affection," Tom stammered, just as the ambulance President White had arranged arrived almost simultaneously. Catherine, perhaps alerted by President White, also rushed to the scene. "Step back. If something happens to Emily and the baby, no, even if nothing happens, I will not forgive you," she exclaimed, glaring suspiciously at Tom, then telling her husband, President White, and her grandfather on the tablet, "I will accompany her." She tightly gripped my hand, showing a worried expression, and rode with me in the ambulance. Consciousness barely maintained began to fade upon being loaded into the ambulance. Catherine's voice called to me, "Emily, Emily." I shrank away, independent of my darkening vision. How long have I been asleep? I opened my eyes, feeling blinded by light. Where am I? Slowly speaking, she looked around. "Emily, oh thank goodness." "I'm so sorry, Emily has woken up." The first thing that came into view was Catherine calling out while pressing the nurse call button. From the opposite side of Catherine, I heard my grandfather John's voice. "Emily, oh, it's so good. The baby in your belly seems to be safe too." "Grandpa, Catherine." My foggy head slowly began to work. At the same time, I remembered being pregnant and the terrible violence from my husband Tom. "The baby is good." I felt relief at her grandfather's words and covered her face. Upon seeing this, her grandfather gently patted her head, saying, "You must have been scared. You did so well." Overlapping with the early days of marriage with Tom, I said something I've been feeling to the two of them. Did I do something wrong? The voice that escaped my lips trembled. Hearing my words, Catherine, teary-eyed, said, "Emily, it's not your fault." And grandfather said, "I will never forgive the guy who put our precious Emily through this." Both defended me. At their words, "Don't think about anything and sleep now," I felt genuinely relieved that I didn't have to tough it out alone. Later, when I awoke, I was informed that I had slept for 3 full days and nights. After receiving a diagnosis that both the baby and I were without issue, I was hospitalized for a week to be safe. During that time, Tom never visited. Considering the baby that could have been in danger, even I began to feel a surge of anger towards Tom. During the hospitalization, Catherine, who had been visiting me every day, decided that returning home like this could result in Tom doing something unpredictable. Thanks to Catherine's generosity, until things were settled with Tom, I would be taken care of at her boss Whit's home. My parental home is far away, and considering the unstable situation that had continued, it was decided that returning there for the birth was not a good idea. Though I thought of going to grandfather's place, since my grandmother had passed away and only men were there, it was decided to go to Boss White's place where Catherine was. Besides, it was concluded that White's residence, which is closer to the city center, would be convenient even to discipline Tom. And that's how the plan was formed. Soon after starting to stay with Catherine, President White shared with me how Tom behaves at the company. Apparently, on the night I had told Catherine everything, she had asked the president to keep an eye on Tom's conduct. In response, the president had taken steps to have Tom's immediate superiors and colleagues report on his usual behavior. So it seemed like Emily didn't have to worry about anything. Catherine and I were speechless after hearing the president's story. Catherine's reaction was, "I knew it." It seems that Tom, who had not contacted me at all since I was taken away in an ambulance, thought that I had realized I had done something bad to him and ran away. Unbelievably, he had been spreading lies to his colleagues that I had cheated on him, and feeling guilty, distanced myself from him. According to one of Tom's peers, he always had a high pride, belittled those he deemed beneath him, and was absolutely horrific to his subordinates, ordering them around and insulting them. He said that he only approached me because I was the most popular female employee in the company at the time, and that if he could get me married, he would use me as a slave. I had been deceived by Tom. When I thought about it, I felt truly pathetic for having been so happy to have met someone kind. It's not just a case of not feeding a fish you've caught, is it? Catherine spoke with an extremely displeased expression. He's that kind of person, so I wonder if he's done something outside of the company too. That might be the case. We should investigate, Catherine said, exchanging glances with President White. She nodded, and after patting me on the shoulder and saying, "Wait here," headed towards the back of the room. When she returned in less than 5 minutes, she handed me a business card. "What's this?" I asked. "He's willing to listen carefully to your story, so why don't you consult him?" Catherine suggested. Dropping my eyes to the business card Catherine gave me, I recognized it as a lawyer's card. Upon asking, it turned out my grandfather gave it to Catherine to give to me, saying, "He's a skilled lawyer." Right now, my grandfather was dealing with the arrival of an old overseas trading partner coming to the States, and he had entrusted me to Catherine. The chairman was very worried. He said he couldn't be here for me during this time, but to stay strong and do my best, and he wanted that message conveyed. "Is that so? That's so like Grandpa," I muttered in my heart. My grandfather prioritized work and business associates over family matters and was very strict. Having been Grandpa's girl and watching him since I was little, I've always loved him despite occasionally perceiving him as cold during my student days due to his stern work demeanor. With this cheer from such a grandfather, I determined in my heart to settle things with Tom and firmly decide where to stand from now on. When I had the lawyer investigate various matters, one thing after another came out. I found out Tom was an atrocious person. First of all, it turned out that Tom, who made me out to be the worst wife ever who cheated on him and left him, had relationships with several women outside and inside the company, including the receptionist girl at the office. When President White conducted an internal investigation, suspicions also arose that he was embezzling company money, attempting to pin the crime on me, who was also in charge of accounting. Around the time the investigation was progressing to a certain extent, my smartphone rang. Of course, it was from Tom. "Hey, what the hell is going on?" Tom's angry voice, which I hadn't heard for so long, didn't scare me at all now. I answered calmly and coldly, "Is it correct to assume that you've received the registered mail we sent?" "Why are you talking so formally? Oh, haven't you read it? I cannot forgive your actions towards our unborn baby. I sincerely wish to become a stranger to you and send it in order to sever our ties." "What? Ha? You're the one who cheated and left without a word, aren't you?" Tom's shouting was painful to the ears. "Can you only shout?" I replied. "I can hear you perfectly fine without you raising your voice. Are you satisfied now, accusing me while you enjoy affairs with multiple people?" With sarcasm, I folded on him that I knew it all. "Wait, how do you?" I continued without hesitation at the fled Tom. "You really haven't read it, have you? I had a lawyer investigate everything. There's more than enough evidence." And also, I added, that while the mail from me is a personal claim for consolation money, his company's lawyer would likely contact him about his misconduct at work, and he should be prepared for that. Judging by his reaction, Tom must be sweating bullets and pale as a sheet. He frantically begins to read through the mail I sent, the rustling of paper audible. He probably felt credibility in the story, since I knew about the company affairs and about being contacted by a company lawyer. He tries to turn the tables. "Wait, Emily, you don't want to break up with me now, do you? The baby needs a father, don't they? Don't even think about doing something as stupid as breaking up. Also, the company thing is something you did. I'll say it was a mistake. That makes everything okay, doesn't it? Such a self-serving, convenient argument. An outrageous claim. What did I do? Didn't I tell you there's more than enough evidence? All right, my grandfather was quite angry as well, so you might be sued by him too. I have nothing more to talk to you about. If there's anything you need to say to me in the future, please go through my lawyer, okay?" Saying so, I hung up the phone. "Wait, don't hang up." I could hear his pathetic voice, but I didn't care. I never wanted to hear Tom's voice again, and even more so, I never wanted to see his face. With my important childbirth ahead, I decided to leave everything to the lawyer and prepare. In the end, here's what happened to Tom. After an investigation by the company, he was reported for his crude behavior towards colleagues, proven to have embezzled, was disciplinary dismissed, and sued for embezzlement, eventually being taken into custody by the police. Furthermore, although I didn't want to make a big deal about it for the sake of the baby being born, my grandfather was furious, and Tom was reported to the police for assault against me, his granddaughter, and was investigated for assault. Financially, he was slapped with various consolation payments and additional damage claims, ending up being billed an astonishing amount all at once. Tom would be on the other side of the fence for the time being, but after getting out, after that would surely be even more difficult. He asked for it. He needs to pay for what he has done. As for me, the divorce was finalized before Tom got involved with the police, and later I safely gave birth to a healthy baby girl. After consulting with my grandfather and Catherine and involving the lawyer, we decided to tell the baby that her father had passed away. My parents were shocked by the post-factum report, but they moved to Tokyo due to my childbirth, and we, my parents, my daughter, and I, began living together as a family of 4. My parents helped with child rearing, allowing me to formally return to work. When my daughter started elementary school, I was entrusted with a big responsibility at the company, succeeding Mr. White as president. Believe it or not, in Brown Company, under my grandfather's policy of not allowing the company's atmosphere to stagnate, presidents change upon reaching a certain age. I had been studying the company's know-how while working as a secretary and in accounting, being the next presidential candidate. If Tom had maintained his character from when we met, perhaps he might have become the president. Now I feel nothing but pity for Tom, who has gone astray in life. Rather, to prevent producing such an employee, I have to become a leader who can properly listen to everyone's voices and tighten my own resolve. I renewed my resolve to become a great person like my grandfather. My grandfather, too, retired from the position of chairman and now is a great-grandfather who dotes on my daughter. Despite the horrible things I experienced, I am sincerely happy now.